SpongeBob the Cosmic Shake. It was a game that released a year ago. We had our fun with it, but a year later, I can finally say that due to many factors, I strongly believe that SpongeBob Rehydrated is a much better speedrun than SpongeBob the Cosmic Shake. I am definitely not the only one with this opinion, as the game is magically getting attention again. Well, it's not really magic, this whole thing was ironically influenced by the Cosmic Shake. But wait a minute, that game is relatively new. Shouldn't that game be the one getting all the attention? How could this have happened? We'll get there. Let's go back to summer of 2020. A very interesting time because this was when SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated released. Everyone was talking about this game when it was new. It was a pretty big deal. In Battle for Bikini Bottom, the original game, a lot of the popularity from that game came from the fact that it was a very good speedrunning game. So naturally, with the remake of that very good speedrunning game, there was a lot of hype around the speedrunning. Immediately when the game came out, there was a glitch that allows you to beat the game in 2 minutes. Everyone loves taxi glitch, right? It wasn't very surprising, but a lot of people surrounded the speedrunning of this game at launch. A lot of people running the 2-minute run, but also a lot of people running the game without the major glitch. And the run without the major glitch was also looking to be pretty promising. As more and more people played and grinded times, the times naturally got lower and lower. But then soon enough, things started to get kinda weird. So when this game was new, the main competition was on PC, of course, and people were originally playing on 144 FPS. Yes, Rehydrate is a game where the physics are heavily tied to frame rate. A lot of tricks were only possible on high FPS. Soon, the leaderboard mods felt this as an unfair advantage because this frame rate is very difficult to achieve and maintain consistently on such an unoptimized game. The rules were eventually changed so that you had to play with a 60 FPS cap, and because of this, the leaderboards were completely reset and wiped, and people were demotivated, which was kinda silly considering the game is new, but whatever. And then people also discovered that lag strats allow for major time saves, and this led to controversy, especially when the leaderboard mods decide to allow them and not separate the leaderboards. And furthermore, we got patches. Many patches to the game came out, which overcomplicated things and led to the game being a bit less accessible to pick up. After a certain patch, entering the Chum Bucket Lab would no longer grant the player with the Bubble Bowl or Cruise Bubble abilities. This was a very silly patch by Purple Lamp. It seems they want to make beating the game in 2 minutes impossible, and this was likely easier than patching the taxi glitch. But ironically, it's still fully possible to beat this game from this state without any powers. So yeah, great fix. All it did was make people mad. These two things sort of led to the downfall of the game. The vast majority of players stopped playing. Rehydrated fell off, unfortunately, and time went on, and eventually, in late 2021, a brand new SpongeBob game was announced. This initial trailer was just an animation, and people could only speculate what the game was going to be, and most assumed it was some sort of BFBB sequel. But then after this first trailer, it was just a lot of waiting. It took until summer of 2022 to get actual gameplay footage, and so from what we saw, it looked like Rehydrated, but quite a bit more polished. The levels were worlds based off what we saw in the animated trailer, and at this point, it was pretty clear now what it was. At the very least, this game was some sort of SpongeBob 3D platformer. Imagine if it was a party game, I'm sure people would be thrilled. Wow, a new SpongeBob game. We were all ready to say goodbye to Rehydrated, right? Good Guy, a prominent strat hunter from Rehydrated, made this really cool segmented glitch showcase run for Rehydrated as a send-off to Rehydrated as we look forward to the Cosmic Shake. That definitely didn't age like milk. There seemed to be a strong focus on costumes, and some people assumed these costumes were more than just cosmetic and allowed for special moves. People thought the karate kick move in the trailer was linked to the karate costume, and the cartwheel was linked to the flower costume. I personally didn't though. And weirdly, the official blurb for the game called Snail Bob a costume, when in the final game, it was not a costume, and it likely was never going to be based on the initial animated trailer. It was a minigame level section sort of thing, not a costume at all. And the official info also said there would be 101 songs from the series, which was so far from being accurate in the final game. I don't know what they were talking about there. People then would try to guess how the progression would work based on the footage we saw in the visible collectibles. I personally had no clue what it was going to be, but I was hoping for the best. It wasn't. Later on January 10th, 2023, GameStop and Amazon Germany accidentally started handing out Xbox codes for the game. Oops. Yeah, because of this disaster, some people got to play the game early. I avoid all the spoilers, and then eventually on January 31st, the game finally released. The Cosmic Shake was here. There was a lot of hype in the SpongeBob game community, and everyone did their casual playthroughs. For the most part, everyone enjoyed the game. The speedrun, of course, started to be looked into as well. And then boom, just like the taxi glitch, but found a little bit later, on the second day of release, an extremely major glitch was discovered that allows you to hover anywhere by simply looking at the sky. Yeah, doesn't that sound like fun? The hover glitch. Immediately, this trick caused as much controversy as the lag struts did back in Rehydrated. We're only on on day 2, people. It's funny because the hover glitch is sort of the complete opposite of lag. Lag was controversial because it was external, but the tricks were cool to pull off, and hovers were controversial because people thought they were just boring. But the tricks were not external at all, you literally just look at the sky. And just like Rehydrated, unfortunately for the game, the decision was made too late to separate the runs that utilize the trick. But it is not fair at all to say that's what led to the game falling off relatively quickly. Not at all. Some people actually enjoyed playing with the hovers and ended up putting together a pretty awesome speedrun. People were initially mad because hovers were just looking at the sky, but later on as the game developed, people realized it was much more than that. I personally joke about them a lot, but really, it is more than looking at the sky. And ultimately, the true any % run for the game ended up being pretty cool. It's extremely optimized too. But yeah, as you can probably tell, I still never really ended up liking the hovers. I just stuck to hoverless stuff, man. But yeah, there were several other factors that led to the fall off of the game, and just like Rehydrated, let's talk about patches again. Patches! Once again, Purple Lamp unfortunately made some patches to the game which messed up some things and overcomplicated some things and hurt accessibility once again. Unfortunately, far too late down the line, one of their patches added a speedrun mode. Yeah, this was entirely unexpected. Fun fact, when they were making this game, someone asked about that and the response was, "It's on the list." We were all convinced they meant absolutely nothing by that, so it was pretty unexpected and cool when they actually delivered. And the unfortunate thing about the speedrun mode was that it came with a timer that unfortunately didn't function properly. And then they made another patch and fixed the timer, but it didn't function properly in a completely different way. And then on the third attempt, okay, they got it this time. Good job. Yeah, this was quite unfortunate. This would have helped the game a lot to be at launch, but unfortunately, this was not the case. If there's ever another Bob game, we all hope this will be working properly day 1 if it's gonna exist at all. Of course, I understand that game development is pretty complicated, and games have to have release dates, and sometimes priorities have to get shifted around. To be honest, at the end of the day, I still think it's pretty cool that Purple Lamp made this in the first place. They really didn't even need to. It's kind of cool that they acknowledged the community like that. But yeah, the way it all panned out was a bit unfortunate. People just ended up sticking to the day 1 patch for runs because on the speedrun timer patches, it was kind of too late because this was after they already fixed up a couple skips we use. So yeah, we all tried to support the game and keep it alive, but unfortunately, it just didn't happen. Punchshot, the world record holder for any %, ran this game at AGDQ 2024. I was on the commentary, by the way. I was the Quagsire on the couch. I couldn't show up. And I played this game at Pacefall 2023. The Easter Bunny even showed up. That's a story for another day. So yeah, ultimately, besides the hovers, besides the patches, I think the main thing that led to this speedrun falling off pretty quickly was that there was just not that much depth to it. The progression of this game is very linear. The goal of the game really is to go from point A to point B. There's really no routing options or anything. Everyone's run looks the exact same. And it is quite crazy to say this, but the game was basically solved in 1 month. Yeah, there was a little bit of routing in the all the balloons runs, but still not that much at all. Hoverless didn't even take that long for people to solve either. It was all very straightforward. Not a lot of room for strat hunting. The game was just not going to change at all, and people got bored. And now, a lot of the people who surrounded Cosmic Shake originally played Rehydrated. People were thinking a lot of the tricks would transfer right over, but that couldn't be further from the case. A lot of the people were surprised at how different Cosmic Shake was, not only as a game, but as a speedrun too. If you've played both Cosmic Shake and Rehydrate as much as I have, you would be able to agree with me that the feel is a lot different. But the game itself has such a different and inferior progression style that it just feels more like a new SpongeBob 3D platformer rather than a BFBB 2. So yeah, Cosmic Shake wasn't an alternative to Rehydrate or BFBB. It's sort of a completely different game altogether. I feel like if you've only played these games casually, you wouldn't agree with the statement, but who knows, maybe you would? I don't know. And people started to reminisce over Rehydrate, man. People wanted to go back to Rehydrate after remembering how good the run actually was. I feel like a lot of people forgot. The game is based on BFBB, which is already a really well-structured game. The game is very open, which allows for so many routing options. And because Rehydrate was unfortunately a very rushed and opportunistic remake, unfortunately that's kind of a legitimate statement to make, the game is loaded with bugs, which for speedruns means more tricks and strats. So yeah, Rehydrate got attention again. People remembered that the game that they were originally playing was actually still good and that Cosmic wasn't gonna replace it. It's a whole separate thing. I've been enjoying my time with this Rehydrated Renaissance. I actually managed to get 77 lagless world record for the first time, 46:21. Shino held the record previously since 2021. This was a pretty cool achievement to me. The run was far from perfect. In fact, I thought it was over at the very end when I missed the cruise bounce, but thankfully I hit the YOLO Bowl strat, which completely saved it. Amazing. Shino took back the record a few days later. Yeah, I could still probably get the record back, but I haven't been playing as much lately, and my attempts have been pretty bad. But also, thanks to this Rehydrated Renaissance, something huge in between the time that I got my 46:21 and Shino got his 46:17 happened. An old strat from years ago that people assumed would never be viable became viable. Dutchman's Clam Skip without lag. You could do a damage boost sponge warp up to the top of the bungee in Flying Dutchman's graveyard, and then bowl off the propeller and bash into the spatula. Not only does it save around 20 seconds from movement, it also saves 40 seconds from grinding. We pretty much removed all of the grinding now in 77 lagless. You only break the tiki wall twice now. The one downside is that you have to cut out a sock. I cannot stress this enough, a time save this huge for a game like this in 2024 is crazy. And if it weren't for the Cosmic Shake burnout being so extreme, maybe this wouldn't even have happened, or would have been found much later on during another resurgence of the game. So Rehydrated being an extremely buggy game with such open progression, I think most would agree that Rehydrated Speedrun naturally has a lot more depth than Cosmic's. I can still think of many theories relating to brand new Rehydrated strats that we haven't discovered yet. For Cosmic, I can think of absolutely none at the moment. And I should definitely mention this before it's too late, I don't want there to be any confusion. Bugginess in games is not a good thing, just because it makes speedrun people happy. In fact, we kinda hate it too. Not all bugs are good. In fact, there's a bug in Rehydrated where your save file will randomly break mid-run, which will completely ruin your attempt. You know, sometimes I'm just afraid that devs may see speedrun people glorifying bugs in games and then thinking that they should make their games intentionally buggy. No, please don't. Polish your games. This stuff needs to come entirely naturally. But yeah, Rehydrated as a speedrun, there is potential for so much more. It is a very chaotic and very hilarious run to watch and play, and I love it. I still do think it is very underappreciated. At the moment, I believe a 44 is very possible in 77 lagless, and I believe it'll be able to go even lower one day when more strats are inevitably found. And Cosmic Shake, for the most part, it feels entirely solved. Which is still crazy, I can't believe that, man. We're good at finding stuff. You know what else would be crazy? If we could one day get to this point with Rehydrated. We still have a lot of work to do, don't we? Yep, so what if I told you that while I was working in this video, we discovered that you can infinitely fly as SpongeBob in certain situations? Unreal. This wouldn't even have been discovered if it weren't for a test tool being worked on for the game by Gordo, so huge shoutouts to him. And also shoutouts to Good Guy for actually finding the trick. Basically, there's a glitch in the game that works with certain text boxes. This glitch allows you to infinitely do a spin attack without having to wait for the animation to end. Now, we've known about this glitch for years, but we had no idea that it could be used to allow you to, well, fly. It's an extremely hard trick, definitely one of the hardest in the game, but I've been practicing it quite a bit and it has been getting a lot better. You gotta do these double spin inputs with a specific rhythm and you'll slowly ascend. This makes areas like Squidward's Dream extremely fast. And yeah, we're finally doing Goo Lagoon backwards and lagless now. That is pretty cool. And guess what? That Dutchman's warp trick I mentioned earlier is already completely obsolete because you can do the same thing with this infinite spin glitch and it's faster. Rehydrated has never been more back. Also, worth mentioning, I found the Fun Edition on sale. It was literally only $70, so I had to go pick that up. And man, I am so glad I did. These Tiki keychains are the coolest. They're so cool, man. They may be based off the beta designs, but I still love them. Look at the stone Tiki man. What a guy.